folks!
Hey allihopa!
Welcome to another video.
In today's video we are rounding up what we read in October.
Not a very productive month for me.
It was
I
okay.
struggled.
It was okay for me. The first book I listened to this month was The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. This follows Olive, who is a something at the university, I don't know, a PhD student, I think, in like biology. And then she strikes up a bargain with Adam, who is like a professor, I think, and where they will fake date Olive because she wants her best friend and her ex-boyfriend to be able to date without feeling bad, and Adam because the university will like freeze his funds because they think he's like a flight risk or something, and then at the next like meeting they will decide if he can like get his money unfrozen basically. So that's how that starts, and you can I guess guess how it goes from there. This has been like very hyped on TikTok and everywhere basically, and I was like, I don't know, maybe it'll be good, who knows, but it was excellent. I recommend everyone reading this. It was really well written. The like pining was really good. It was really good. The only issue I have is that this is based on a Lowe fanfic. And like, you can ship whatever you want, but it's not like my ship. And obviously the two characters on the cover looks like Adam Driver and what's her name?
Daisy Ridley.
Daisy Ridley. It's kind of like if you see it, you know it's them. And I myself don't find Adam Driver that attractive. So whenever he was described kind of looking like Adam Driver, like not explicitly so like, oh, he looks like Adam Driver, but just like from the physical features, I was just like, no thanks. But other than that, it was really, really good. I recommend this if you want like a good, cute romance. Mwah!
The first book I read was The Love of Cats by Celia Haddon. I bought this on a whim several months ago, and I thought, why not read it? And it's kind of, it is what it is. It is what it kind of looks like. Cutesy poems about cats, and also some like talk about famous cats in the past. Not a lot of substance. It had a lot of the same pictures repeated over and over again. Just kind of cats. And not even in a really cool, interesting way. But it was fine. I don't have anything deep to say about it because there was nothing deep to it. So, there you go.
The next book I read this month was These Hollow Vows by Lexi. This is a Fairloot exclusive edition. This follows Bree. She lives in a world where fae exist, basically, and some fae steal her younger sister, and then she has to like basically try and get her back. And she'll realize this when she enters into the fae world that she has some powers. There is this boy that she knows, and it turns out that he's a fae prince, and then there's this other boy who's like maybe evil, who knows. It's very silly. I gave this book like a 2.5 stars, which is, to be honest, a nice rating because this is very silly. Like, and I like silly books, but this was just like, it was a little too much. Like, I really liked the beginning of the book, like the first maybe 50 pages or so. I was like, wow, this is like, you know, going full force. And then it just kind of stagnates, and it's very like the similar things where she's like training with her power with these like maybe evil people. She try and find some magical item that will help her get her sister back. She talks to like the prince, and it's just kind of like the same thing circular like this the whole way through. And then at the end it's like some sort of like showdown, and I was just like a bit bored with it. So unknown if I will continue with the series. Maybe, possibly, but also I wasn't too invested in the story, to be honest. And also it has the issue with like she thinks that she's so much better than all the other girls. Because she ends up in some sort of like Bachelor-esque situation where like the prince invites like humans to the castle, and then he will, like, out of, I don't know, let's say 15 girls, he will pick one to be his bride. And because Bree and this prince already know each other, he's like, you can stay here while you look for your sister. But he's like, but I really want to get married to you. It's all just, it's a bit too much, in my opinion.
Speaking of too much, I read The Fell of Dark by Caleb Rurik. This is like a teen vampire novel. I don't read a great deal of fiction, and I kind of feel like this book put me back because it made me not want to read more fiction. It was okay. It's, you know, typical vampire nonsense, and they're all in high school, and there's a love triangle and stuff. But first of all, adult people need to learn how teenagers talk. They need to know how teenagers think. They need to figure it out, because it always bothers me. I hate this with movies too, actually. Any movie that's like a teen transition and it's written by an adult makes no sense. But anyway, the character is a teenager. He does not act like a teenager ever, but he says like in his sentences a lot, so I guess that makes him a teenager.
Yes.
Also, the like love triangle, they're like the whole way through it's like, will you choose this one, will you choose that one, and then at the end they're just kind of like, whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. The teen romance isn't even important at the end anyway. So I did not like this very much. I don't think I'll read anything else by Caleb Rurik. Maybe he writes other things better, but I was just kind of like, Also, don't publish your book black paper, white writing. If the print is bad, which this is, you cannot read it very well, and you strain your eyes. Why would you do that to your readership? Like, the very first chapter is like that, and I almost gave up on the book right then and there because I could not read half of the words. Just don't do it. There's a reason that we write on white paper with black writing.
The next book I read was The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochran. And speaking of Bachelor, this is literally about The Bachelor. Well, kind of. It's not called The Bachelor, it's like called something else I don't remember now. It doesn't matter. There's two main characters. I don't remember the names because I don't remember character names. One of them is the contestant. He's like the bachelor, and he's like a Silicon Valley basically, but then he had like something happened at his old company and he was like ousted, and his publisher's like, if you go on this like dating show, maybe you'll win like some sort of public, you know, they will start to like you, and, you know, maybe your old company will get you back and so on and so forth, and you will not be labeled as like crazy. And he's like, okay, he doesn't really want to do it. He's like, okay, fine. And then the other one is the producer of the show who has to like take care of the contestant, and then they fall in love. Ugh. I really liked this. I thought it was quite well written. I mean, the whole like how the Bachelor-esque part of the show was like how that took place or whatever. I was like, I'm not sure this is how a type of show like this would be done, but whatever, I'll just let it slide. It's fiction, it doesn't matter that much. But the way that the characters were, like their like mental health issues, their like understanding of their sexualities and coming to terms with who they were and stuff was like, wow, so good. More of this, please. It was amazing. Everyone should read this. I recommend it. Also, the audiobook's really good because it's like dual narrators, so if you're into that, you should listen to this.
The next book I read was The Kids by Hannah Lowe. You might remember in the last haul I talked about this book and how I thought it would be kind of bad, and I was right. Like I said, adults talking about teenagers don't have a clue. I'm not even a teenager anymore, and it still gets on my nerves. This is a teacher talking about students as if they're props to her own life. It's really strange. This is a thing that happens with a lot of teachers when they talk about students. It's like they don't believe students are actually real people. They're kind of just like ways for her to think about herself. And I'm not interested in that, so I did not like this very much. It talks about also her own experiences as a student, and then her experiences as a mother, which I was not interested in. And it, like, I think it was trying to build a narrative, but I just didn't care about the narrative because I was so mad about the student stuff that it just felt like disjointed and a little emotionless, just like writing poems by rote. They're all sonnets, I believe, which is kind of like, okay, if that's your like your thing to make your collection interesting, I don't think that's very interesting. I just personally didn't think it was that good. Maybe you would like it, but it wasn't for me. I don't even know who this is aimed at. Is it aimed at other people who are parents and teachers at the same time? Because maybe. If so, maybe I'm just not the target audience.
The next book I listened to but have a physical copy of is The Underground Railroad by Colson and Whitehead. I have read one of his previous books, or well, they actually came out after this, which is called The Nickel Boys, which I thought was okay. It was very kind of written at a distance, kind of. And I had the same issue with this one. The premise is really interesting. So in this one, obviously it's like about slavery and the Underground Railroad, which was something that existed. But in this book, the Underground Railroad is an actual underground railroad that helps slaves escape their plantations and stuff. Which I was like, wow, that sounds super interesting. And like, because obviously the Underground Railroad really gives that kind of visual. So I was like, wow, this is going to be like about how they escape and about like how the railroad is like operated and all that, and it was not about that at all. The Underground Railroad is kind of just like part of the story, but the story is really about this one character called Cora, and she's a slave and she escapes from Georgia and she goes to South Carolina at first, I think. It's just about her life, I guess. And I don't know, I wasn't really that invested in the story. I thought the beginning was quite interesting, and then I was just didn't really think it was that good. Again, it's kind of written with that distance where I didn't feel like I got to know the characters that well. So I felt very like, after finishing this book.
One book that was not disappointing, finally, was Citizen, An American Lyric by Claudia Rankine. This was actually a gift from Tess from last year. And I finally got around to reading it, and it was really good. I really liked, it's kind of the whole book is one long poem, and it's kind of divided into sections, and it talks about things that are happening in the world, especially in America right now, and I thought it dealt with them in really interesting ways, and also kind of really made you think about things, because I am not an African American woman. And while I do try to stay abreast of things that are happening and I try to be engaged with anti-racism and things, I simply don't have the lived experience to understand it fully. The embodiment of fear constantly, everything you do could lead to your death. And that's a terrifying thing to have to live with. And I think about that a lot, but I don't think I live with it in the same way that Black people do. I hesitate to be like, it was good for me, it made me grow, but it did, and I think people should read this because it's a really worthwhile thing to learn about and hear. Go read it.
Nice.
Good.
I'm glad. The next book I read was Gods and Monsters by Shelby Maherin. This is the last book in the Serpent and Dove series, I guess. It was okay. My issue with this book is that spoilers ahead, by the way, is that it starts off with what the fuck is her name? Lou. It starts off with Lou being possessed by someone, which happened at the end of the last book. So she's possessed for like, let's say like 200 pages. And then as soon as she is not possessed anymore, Reed, who's like her husband, love interest, whatever, has memory loss. Like, I'm like, I just want them to like literally talk about their relationship. Like, I don't know why they have to be apart constantly. Because then he was back at square one where he was like at the beginning of the first book where he hates witches and stuff. And I'm like, but he has had so much character growth, and now you like rip that all away. And then like at the last, after like, let's see, another 200 pages, he like remembers And I'm like, yeah, but they haven't really reconciled. Like, I mean, I don't remember a lot that happened in the second book, and if they kind of talked about stuff, but I feel like they didn't. And I was like, they need to talk about stuff, because, like, they need to be on the same page. They need to, like, grow together and, like, you know, become better people. And that was like, oh, I hate that. I hate that. I hate memory loss in books, because it's like I know what has happened, so it's like, you can't erase my memory, bitch. So it's like, it's such a useless way of writing, in my opinion. And this goes for like TV and movies as well. Like, memory loss is completely useless as a story
mechanism.
Yeah, don't use it. Don't use it. Anyway, so I thought that was really annoying, and then it also felt like the book was really divided into like several different sections, which it is, but it's like after like 250 pages, I was like, this feels like the ending of a book, and then like there's like 300 pages to go. I don't know, it just went on a little bit too long, I think, but whatever. I gave it like a 2-star, 3 stars even. I was very generous. I really liked the first one. The first book, I thought it was quite excellent, and then since then it's kind of been progressively worse.
The last book I finished this month was Not Here, A Queer Anthology of Loneliness, edited by Richard Porter, I believe. Like with the other 2 books that I have read from this collection, I didn't get most of the poems. It's got like visual art as well as kind of prose, or like purple prose, and poetry. I didn't really feel like a lot of the things in here actually carried a lot of emotion, because loneliness is such a deep feeling, and I think it's very hard to communicate that, because communication is inherently bridging the divide between people. So I don't know that all of the poems in this collection were successful, and possibly I just didn't understand them enough to get it. Maybe I just didn't get it. But I felt like they could have been better. But it was still okay. I mean, I'll read the other books of the other... I like the idea of separating them into emotions, but I don't know that this one really worked.
The next book I listened to was Lustre by Leoni. Didn't know what I was expecting going into this, but I really like this book. I just want to start off there. It basically follows main character. I'm not remembering names. Anyway, and she is a young black woman living in, I think it's New York, and she's working at a publisher, and she has this like affair with this much older white man. And then through circumstances, she becomes kind of like entwined with his family and ends up like basically living in their house. Very strange. I really liked this. It was kind of, it had like a bit of that like meandering feeling to it, even though it wasn't really meandering, but I enjoyed that. And this book wasn't really about like a lot of things. It was just like her becoming entwined with this family, and then the book kind of ended when that was finished, I guess. And I was like, what a good book. I don't know, it had really interesting thoughts, and you know, about being a woman, about being black in America, and because also the daughter of this older white man is adopted and is black, and like they don't really know how to like take care of her hair or how to be parents to a young black girl, basically. And not, so I thought that was really interesting. It was just, oh, what a good book. I will definitely read other books by this author, because if this is the standard, I will continue reading. I really recommend this book. It was just interesting. Very interesting. The next book I read was Another Country by James Baldwin. I have previously read Giovanni's Room, which I didn't really like that much. This is for a book club at work, and this follows a bunch of people in the 1960s in New York, and you follow mainly Rufus. I don't want to say too much because you haven't read this book yet.
It's fine. I'm unlikely to read it. I was going to participate in this, but I did not like the beginning.
Yes.
And found it very difficult to get into, so I might not. So
yes, it was difficult to get through this whole book.
My dad also, I asked him about it, and he was also like, I don't think it's a very good book. He's much better at writing short stories and poetry.
This is why I've been thinking as well. Anyway, because I kind of like his writing. I like the writing in Johannes Room. So I was like, he has obviously capacity to write really well, but what the fuck was this? I'm sorry, but like, I don't know, like the beginning of the book, spoilers, but basically Rufus commits suicide and then you follow his friends post his death. I enjoyed that part way better than the first part. I don't know. I think Rufus was just like, he was so difficult to like care about. And this book is very misogynistic, first off, and that was quite difficult. A lot of thoughts that the guys had was like, oh, women should do this, and even the women had those thoughts, and I'm like, clearly written by a man. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, wow, my dude, like, no, that's not how women think at all, but, you know, whatever. I did like, so in the second half, there's the introduction of a character called Eric, and I enjoyed him the most out of all the characters to read it from, because I think he had more compassion than a lot of the other characters had. But even so, they were all just like sleeping around and like just being not very good humans, and I was just like, I don't care about any of this nonsense.
That was the impression I got from the first 15 pages. I was like, this book is about people having sex with each other and being mad about it.
Yeah, but also I found really annoying was like the character would just like flip-flop from like second to second. They would be like, in one sentence they were like, oh, I love this person so much, and and then literally the next thought would be like, I want to fucking murder them, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, you need to calm down and like go to therapy, because like it was just very difficult to read, and I think the flip-flopping was probably what was difficult to read, because there is a lot of interesting themes here about like race, about like women and men, and like coming back from war, like being an adult, having relationships. Like it is interesting themes, but like the execution, poor, very poor. And then the book just kind of ends. I don't know. Also, my second favorite character is Eric's boyfriend, Yves, because he has done nothing wrong. He deserves better than Eric, even though Eric was my favorite character.
You have done nothing wrong ever, and I love you.
Yes. Oh god. Anyway, the book discussion will be interesting. Yes. Maybe so just me who's finished the book. Last but not least, I read volume 10 of Jujutsu Kaisen called Evening Festival by Gege Akutami. So this begins the very long storyline called the Shibuya Incident, which is like very long spanning. I think it's just finished and it's like volume 15 now. So it's quite a long storyline. And that's basically the evil people have taken a whole like train station hostage basically in order to force Gojo out, I guess. Then that's all I'm gonna say. There's a lot of stuff with Itadori which I like, and he's my favorite character. He's a little ray of sunshine. That concludes everything.
Yes, what we've learned today is that you should not print white on black, and that you should not use memory loss as a plot device.
And not to read James Baldwin's fiction. His
short stories and poetry, according to my dad.
Yeah, I think his essays are probably quite good.
Yeah, essays, yeah. Like the shorter stuff and the poetry, my dad says are great. He also said he didn't like Giovanni's Room. So you and my dad have similar tastes, maybe. I don't think so.
Comment down below.
Yes.
What you thought about our reading selection this month and our thoughts. Do you agree? Disagree?
Leave a like.
And subscribe. We are Tessa Norland everywhere on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, which is still not up and running, but let's not talk about it. Anyway, we'll see you in a video soon. Hej då!
Bye!
It's okay. It's okay.
Let me see what else my notes said, because I don't remember.